All right, Ambush. Today we are joined by an acclaimed singer-songwriter who has garnered himself quite a bit of hype inside of the industry through his two EPs that he had released, one in 2015 entitled Postures, one in 2018 entitled Fever and Bloom. He had a string of self-produced singles before sort of making the decision to move to France in the middle of recording his current album, a full length that is coming out into the future. We got a little bit of a taste with the first single of it, which we're going to be discussing here today with my guest, Ryan Egan. How's it going, Ryan?
It's going really well. And yeah, just happy to be chatting with you. Happy to chat about the new project. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm very excited to jump into things here as well. And I love the music. I am loving this new track. So, of course, like I mentioned, you sort of came off some success of that sophomore EP. You did some self-producing of some singles. And I'd sort of like to start there. That's where I'd love to jump on in, because from what I can read on your website and your biography, you can see that you sort of were halfway through recording your debut full length when you made the decision to move to France. So going forward from those self-produced singles and then sort of making that decision, how did you move forward? What was this process like?
Yeah, so it's a little bit more convoluted. Like when I moved, I was really just I was in the process of writing the album. I hadn't quite figured out how I was going to be producing it, how I was going to actually record it. So that changed over time. I was like, at one point, I was assuming I'd be recording it myself, maybe getting some other people involved. Then I moved to France. This was like really just a separate life decision. My now wife is from Paris, so I had become a home away from home for many years. And yeah, we were living in New York together for a long time, and we just decided to give it a try. So in my mind, when I was moving there, I was really excited to dive into the scene, meet musicians there, start playing gigs. And also I was thinking, all right, like I'll be here. I might as well maybe find a producer here, find the team or the musicians or whatever, to put together this record. And then COVID hit. So that obviously like put a damper on a lot of aspects of the move, really settling into a new city and finding your friends, your network. I had played one live show, and there was just before our lockdown. So that ended, there was no, live gigs. And so then during the lockdown, I did a lot of writing and I think from then on, I just kind of, it was always open-ended how the record was going to be made. And finally, coming out of that experience, I ended up just reaching out to some people, and I linked up with Kevin Basco, who ended up being the producer with me on this album. So I ended up going back to Jersey, New York, and then staying with him in Philly. And we made the record over the course of like 3 weeks in winter. So yeah, it's a long window of time, but ultimately we recorded everything. We recorded everything in 2 weeks at Kevin's place, and then at some studios in New York and with friends in Jersey and stuff. And then the third week was mixing, and then there was like another week of mastering. So the album recording process really came together quickly. The writing and the figuring out what the next stage of releasing was going to be. And like you mentioned, I've self-produced a lot of stuff. I've collaborated with other producers. Every project is different. Oh, hey. Every project is different, and I just never quite know, like as I'm preparing for it, what it's going to be, who's going to be interested in working on it, and yeah, I really lucked out with this case because Kevin was awesome to work with, and I was also able to incorporate some old friends, old bandmates, and collaborators, and yeah, the way it all came together was really better than I could have anticipated, to be honest.
So even though things shutting down sort of put you back inside of immersing yourself inside of the music scene inside of France, which you were hoping to do, it gave you more time to sort of make sure that you were ready for once you actually got inside the studio then?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty accurate because honestly, I was writing a ton during that time, and I was also, my day to day is writing and working in my studio. So depending on what I'm doing, I'm often building up tracks, arranging tracks. So a lot of the stuff that ended up, or really almost everything that ended up on the album, I had really spent quite a bit of time arranging drums, putting bass lines, synth parts, really just going all the way in because at the time I didn't know how I was going to release it, how I was going to actually record it. So for all I knew, maybe I would be seeing those productions through to the end, getting them mixed and mastered, and that would be the album. I didn't really know until I knew. I didn't know until I reached a point where I said, I'm not that excited about what I'm sitting with here. I believe in these songs, but I need to inject some new energy, some new musicianship, some other life into this for me to be excited about this album. So yeah, I luckily linked up with Kevin and then was able to have just a nice experience heading back home, seeing friends, working with him. And ultimately it came together great. So yeah, the confinement experience was important for definitely like crossing the finish line of writing and then experimentation with production and discovering, hey, I don't really want to do this album by myself.
Well, and sometimes having that another refined set of ears, because even yourself as a producer, like you say, you do have that talent, that refined set of ears, but maybe having somebody else's opinion can still help to unlock something inside of these tracks, right?
100%. And I absolutely benefited from that. Like getting Kevin's ears on it, his instincts, his musicianship. He's a multi-instrumentalist, so he played really everything. Like between the two of us, we divided up roles. Like we would both play guitar, we both play keys, he would play drums. So getting him on it as well as his space. Like he has a really great studio, running things to tape and just a really cool setup at his place in Philly. So access to that gear and the vibe that he's been creating in his space, and the sound that he's been creating with his own records and with records that he's producing for other people. It was really a great road to go down and take these songs down. And I'm really happy with how it came out.
Awesome. And I'd say it turned out pretty fantastic so far as well, based off of our first taste of this upcoming album here, of this work that you were able to do inside of this 3 weeks inside of the studio, which you said happened pretty nicely, but at the time I'm sure was a little hectic going between 3 separate cities and just trying to make sure that all the players have everything right and all the schedules align. And at the time, probably pretty hectic, but very worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, I mean, mostly just a little nerve-wracking with COVID, to be honest. Like up until the last second, you don't really know. Like things were very unclear travel-wise, so I was taking that risk where I had lined up all the people I wanted to meet with, and I was going to be staying with Kevin at his place a lot, and so and of course, like seeing my parents, and so I was definitely concerned. This was pre-vaccinations. So like, I think it was when I was leaving the States at the end of this trip was when vaccinations started rolling out in the US, for instance. So it was definitely like not the greatest point in time to be traveling. And I had some scares of like, people getting COVID or like kind of in, the periphery and being like, oh my God, I was just at home with my parents. And luckily everything was fine. And there were no issues, but yeah, traveling around like that was definitely a little stressful because especially I hadn't been home in a little while, so you wanted to see everyone. So luckily, a lot of my friends I was seeing them like thanks to making the record, but I was also I would go meet up with people on a night off or whatever, and like I said, family. So it was risky to work in hanging out with everyone, but luckily it all panned out, and it was a great way to make the album, a great mood just to go home, but also have like a lot of focus time. When I was in Philly with Kevin, I didn't have any social life there. We were just making the record. I didn't have anything to do other than that. So then, on the weekends I'd go do a couple more sessions to piece together things, grab, my buddy would play bass on some stuff, or I'd track some instruments somewhere else. And then I'd just be hanging or whatever for a day or two, and then back to Philly. So it was really the best of both worlds.
All right. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you also had a little bit of time to balance with the family as well, because very, very important. And of course, this 3-week process, like we mentioned, brought us some new music, and our first taste came on September 24th here in 2021 with your brand new single, Weeknights. So take us a little bit behind this new track. What does it mean to you, Ryan?
I mean, the song, it means a lot just in terms of, I think it's a really good representation of the sound of the album, the people involved in making the album. And also, it feels sonically like an in-between, of my two cities, really, New York and Paris. So I wrote the song before moving to Paris, but I did, like I was telling you, like as I was writing and piecing this album together and deciding what the material would be, I had my mind set on maybe working with some French producers or musicians. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the French touch sound, which is Air, the bands like Air and Phoenix, and not really Daft Punk, but like there's, kind of like indie pop groups from France. There's a real feel to that. And I was sort of, when I was working on Weeknights, I had that in mind. I had that sort of style, that groovy, kind of sexy pop rock sound. So I do, I feel like sonically it's a good representation of the album and just my two cities that I call home. And so, yeah, other than that, I mean, it's just like a fun romantic song, which is also nice to roll out first, because then throughout the album, there's a bit more diverse themes to like some of the lyricism across the record. And this one is just really a song about going out in the city, meeting people, hookups, just life out in the city, partying and stuff. So it's not the deepest tune. It's just a good feel good song. And yeah, I mean, more than anything, it means a lot to me just to have some new music out and share it with people. And the reception has been really, really, really great. And hearing people's feedback, and yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Awesome. Well, I'm very happy to hear the feedback is coming back good. And of course, I mean, Paris, France there, very romantic itself. So probably quite the place to help to progress this romantic track into what it has become. And you mentioned Phoenix, and as soon as you mentioned Phoenix, that sort of like little light inside my head where it's like, oh yeah, no, I can definitely hear where that influence would come from for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love it. I love how this all comes together, and how a romantic song is the first track that comes from this new adventure, when romance is what helps to take you there as well.
Fair. Yeah.
Poetic, my friend. And of course, another thing that has a little bit of a poetry to it is the music video, what I'd almost call a little bit of a mini movie for this track, because it is like put together so fantastically. It looks so amazing. So take us a little bit behind the video for Weeknights here as well.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, I can't really take too much credit for it, although I was involved towards the end in piecing together the edit with my buddy Hugo, who directed it. But really, so it's my friend Hugo. He's from Paris, and he's currently living in Rome with his girlfriend, who is the star, the female star of the video. And he and I have been doing all the imagery, all the visuals for the album. So we've done some live videos, one of which is out for Weeknights, and the rest I'll be releasing per single. He's also behind the artwork and all photos that I'm doing behind the release. And so this was completely his brainchild. While he was traveling around Italy this summer, he was able to, take a couple of days to shoot. They found in the story, you have this young voyeur, this young boy who is infatuated with the older woman that he's seeing on the beach, and kind of following her around, and a little bit creepy, a little bit like kind of a strange vibe in the video. You'll have to watch it. And so they found this guy. His name's Ernesto. I think he was probably like 12 years old. They kind of scouted him while they were just in the south of Italy. He was down to shoot, and they pieced it together. The three of them over the course of 2-3 days. So yeah, I mean, again, I can't take too much credit for it. I put my trust in Hugo to put something together. I know what he's capable of. We had spoken about the theme and what he was going for, but yeah, I'm beyond stoked about the final result. As you said, it's really beautiful cinematography, and just a cool narrative, little mini film that really complements the song and the feeling of the music. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of that.
Absolutely. And shout out to Hugo for slaying it, considering you just put full trust into him. He filmed it in a completely other different country, and I'm guessing you weren't even like there for the experience. He just brought you the final product, and helped him with like putting it together at the end, and then just boom, like that. Hey,
yeah, luckily he's between Rome and Paris quite a bit. So for instance, we just spent the last couple days shooting the next music video, and now he's going back to Rome. So he's kind of back and forth doing work, and yeah, it's super close. So yeah, hopefully I'll be. I was just there recently, not working with him, but yeah, I'm kind of looking ahead at that as well, and being like, maybe we'll have to shoot some stuff in Rome. I don't mind coming to Italy.
Hey, beautiful scenery inside of Italy as well. So I'm sure there's some incredible shots and incredible video to be filmed there for sure. And you also mentioned that there is another video that has been filmed, that the ball is still rolling towards the release of this debut full-length album here, which is entitled Soft Power. It's coming our way in April 2022. So without giving away too many of the secrets, what else can you tell us that we haven't already discussed here today?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty standard album rollout timeline for the way, a lot of albums are being released now, just breaking it down into some singles. So I'm really excited because each single that's coming prior to the release in April really just has each song has its own world, of course, sonically, and the theme and all. But in terms of releasing it to everyone, my ability to put together the videos and everything that will go along to accompany it, it really can have its own life. It can have its own universe. As you've seen with Weeknights, the video, I have a lyric video that goes with it. The live session I mentioned. It's fun for me to kind of build that up around an individual song and let it go and sort of, breathe some new life into it. And that, Weeknights in its own right, it exists in this little universe, and then it's going to be part of a whole. So until that album releases, it's really nice to see what the songs can do on their own, see which ones resonate with different people, and then also to explore the visual side of things, like I said. So that's very much where my head has been at, as I just wrapped up shooting the second video. So still a lot more work down the road for the rest of the visual content that will be accompanying the music. But so there's going to be four singles prior to the April album release. So yeah, a lot of opportunities for people to discover the music prior to the album, and hopefully build up anticipation for the full piece. And I'm really proud of the album as a whole. So I think people will see how it all pieces together, and how it all all the music is rather cohesive and works together as a full piece, you know.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm very excited to see how all of these standalone singles will eventually have a cohesion to them there. And you also mentioned that you did a little bit of a live performance video type there too. And you have announced recently that you're going to be returning to the live stage at the end of October there in France for finally your second show inside of your second home here, your new home. So how exciting is that to finally return to the stage and play a little bit of new music potentially as well?
Yeah, long time coming, man. It's really great because my background in music, how I fell in love with music, how I began playing music was really just live. I had bands starting from high school age, and I was just playing shows from that point, you know, from 14, 15 until now. And so this has been the longest window of time where I haven't had concerts. I've kind of, I don't want to say lost that part of my identity, but really like it being on hold has been, there's been a mix of emotions, you know? So of course, in that time frame, I put together an album. I've done a lot of writing. I've done a good amount of other, you know, I've had a fine creative output. It's just that part of my life as a performer, as someone that just enjoys going to concerts and engaging with live music, and also just meeting people. You know, there's a whole culture around it, and you know, I've made, you know, so many great friends and discovered so much great music from the live concert scene in whatever city I'm living in. So I'm just really excited for that, going to concerts more, getting back on stage. And of course, now putting together some of these songs that, well, you know, really everything, almost everything on the album, I've just never played live. So, you know, doing rehearsals now, just starting up rehearsals for this gig in Paris, and I'll have a gig. I haven't announced yet, but in November I'll be playing New York. So hearing the stuff in the room, like even just rehearsing with a live band and hearing these songs that are on my album that I've just been living with for a while now, hearing them reinterpreted by other players, you know, together in a room, putting together that sound. It's man, it's moving, and I'm so excited to play the new material and just play again. Can't wait.
Oh, I can only imagine, and I can't wait for that first reception you get to these new songs as well, for when you get that immediate feedback live, because there's just nothing like that.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, you can imagine too, just the way anyone changes and evolves in, say, a 2-year window of time. It's been almost 2 years, you know, since I've played live shows. So I have all this new music. I have, you know, I feel different. We're all for sure different after this collective experience of what we've gone through. So I just can't wait to get out and you know, it's given time to reflect on what can I do better? You know, what do I not want to do the same when I get back on stage? Because now, to me, you know, that experience it's always been somewhat sacred, you know, but it feels like, man, I lost this for a bit. This was taken away from me, and I don't take that for granted. And I can't wait to get back up and feel, you know, maybe approach it slightly differently and see how I can progress on the live side of things. So yeah, really, really stoked, man.
Awesome. And I love how you put that, because it kind of leads into my last question very, very nicely here, because you mentioned that it's been 2 years, and in 2 years, you can grow quite a bit. So what I would like to end off on, what I would like to know is, through this last 2-year period, relocating, having to record an album inside of basically everything you described in recording this album here in 3 weeks, of having to go back in the middle of COVID, all of those difficult things, waiting to return to the live stage, all of this time. How has this time helped you grow as a person, or what has it taught you about yourself?
Good question. I mean, I think it's mostly helped me evolve personally. I think that I've always been on a constant forward, constantly in forward motion as an artist, as a creator. That I don't want to say that happens naturally or without effort, but it's sort of it's the way it goes. It's the nature of the work, I guess. Whereas the initial lockdowns and just the change in social life and all this has definitely helped me learn to sleep better, how to kind of just like zeroing in on certain things, with health and the way I go about my day to day. So I've certainly taken some of those things that I've learned with me, and as well as I guess recognizing to your question about the losing of the live show experience and all that. It's definitely it's taught me a bit that I do thrive in the studio environment. It kind of solidified this feeling that I was juggling with inside anyway, being like, am I more of a writer? Am I more, of a studio musician, or am I a performer? And not that you have to choose between the two, but it confirmed for me that I'm most content when I'm creating and writing new music and working in that kind of environment, as opposed to if I were just on the road for 7 months, a year or something, performing material over and over. So I think there's a balance to be found, so that you can be consistently creating as well as performing, getting that side of your craft out and evolving. But it definitely confirmed for me that, if it came down to it, lock me in a studio, and I can live with that, so.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for sharing not only this lesson, but also the story of this upcoming album and this new single, Weeknights, here with us today on the Desert Tiger podcast.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate the conversation and for supporting the track and just the release in general. So I really appreciate the time.